Hi, I'm Dr. Lindsay Coble.
Dr. Noelle Crosby, and we're the Sound Sisters, and this is the Hearing Diaries. Today, we are thrilled to have a very special guest, Dr. Jill Caseworm. Jill has built one of the most successful private practices in the country, and she's known for her fearless leadership, creative business strategies, and her passion for mentoring others, especially women in the profession. She's someone who has paved the way for so many of us, showing you that you can build a thriving practice while also creating an incredible patient experience. And if you've ever heard her speak, you know she tells it like it is. And she does with wisdom, humor, and heart. So we are thrilled to have Jill with us here on the Sound Sisters today. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. And yes, I will continue to be outrageous and just say what I think.
That's exactly
I have
what
the
we
right.
need.
I've been doing this long enough. I have the right to
You have
say it.
earned the right. You've earned the right, Dr.
You
Jill.
betcha.
You've
Our
earned
Be
it.
Curious or Be Curious segment today is to highlight Dr. Jill's Women of Wonder group and conference. I attended way back in 2018 in St. Joseph, Michigan, and I have some lifelong friends as a result of it and business colleagues to communicate with as a result of it. So if you've never heard of Dr. Jill's Women of Wonder, please follow along with that. We will also attach a QR code so you can get more information.
Yes.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's been such a pleasure. And one thing in giving some talks recently that I'm a little dismayed about is that, things that I faced or Noelle faced 35 years ago, women are still facing today. And unless we fight back, you know, our our colleagues are going to face the same things.
Mm-hmm. So we have to stand up together. We have to stand
Yeah.
up together. All right,
Amen to that.
let's get
Right.
right into our questions. So Dr. Jill, here they come. So many know you as a very successful private practice audiologist in the United States, probably one of the most successful private practice audiologists. Please share how you got started, what motivated you to create such a unique model, and kind of where Dr. Jill came from to begin with.
Well, I was a non-traditional student. I got married when I was 19. My husband was significantly older, as most people could tell if David were here. Um, but I didn't have any fallbacks. I didn't have just a sec. I didn't have a safety net. I had to make money.
Mhm.
And there were no audiologists in the community. So I started out with industrial testing, went to the bank to get a $15,000 loan. And the bank wouldn't give it to me, but they would give it to David because he had worked there at one point. And so I didn't have to make a lot of money every month to repay that loan. But, I had to call on industries that I knew nothing about. I mean, I knew about industrial hearing testing, but OSHA was saying they had to test people that were exposed to an 8-hour time weighted average of 85 decibels or above. So I just surrounded myself 3 days a week because 2 days a week I was working in the hearing impaired program to get ASHA certified. And so I would just call, cold calls. Hey, I have this business and I can test your employees, and OSHA says you need it done, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, like printing companies, drop forge companies, die cast companies, anything that had noise. And
Mhm.
so I, uh, just a second. David, read your note. Sorry, I know this isn't edited, but he has to know he has to be quiet, right? I sent him a note. Does
That's
he
how
look at
you
the
tell
note?
them. Mhm.
No. Does he read the note? So that's my
We're
little bit of
live.
humor.
Sometimes when things are live, we get
Hey, this
When
is what
David.
things are
happens.
live, we get it.
It's
Okay.
real.
So anyway, so I got it started and then it grew, and then an ENT asked me to work work 1 day a week. And I said I would. And then they weren't dispensing hearing aids. There were two ENTs in a multi-specialty clinic. And I said, I could do this clinic for you. You turned it away too much business, and we'll just split it 50-50 down the road. You pay me 50% of what you collect for diagnostics. I'll pay you 50% after cost of goods. Now, that probably wasn't even legal then. Probably, I don't know if they had Stark logs back then. And so after 2 years at this multi-specialty clinic. I already had an audiologist working for me and I was paying her. And the the director of the clinic, who was probably 20 years my senior, took me to lunch and said, you're doing a great job, but you make too much money. Well, really, it was the risk that I taught. I'm not getting taxes taken out. I'm paying my own employee, which was really stupid considering. And, it's just what it
Lessons
is.
you
And
learn, right?
the guy said to me, well, we want you to become an employee. Okay, fine. How much will I make? Half of what I was making? I said, why would I do that? And he said to me, late 80s. Is it your time of the month or not? Or what?
Oh
And
my
I was aghast. But I was raised, this is the thing you might not know about me. I was raised with three significantly older brothers.
God.
And from the time that I was little, I had to learn to stand my own ground. They were not going to walk all over me. And so I've just learned over time. And, if I were older, I was only about 28 at the time. I might have handled that differently, but the way I chose to handle it was to just walk away and get the heck out because some battles you can fight and others you can't. So that multi-specialty clinic probably had 50 MDs and probably 90% of them were male. And so it was just like, I'm not going to take you to court. I'm not going to go through all this crap. I'm just going to get out and go somewhere that fits me better. And, when I hear stories about women who are in hospitals or clinics and they can't use their doctoral title, even though they're an AUD, then you know what I say to them? Get out.
Get out.
Unless you want to be treated like that. And I can guarantee you that right now, there are so many places looking for audiologists. There are
Mhm.
not enough of us.
Oh, no, there
And
are not.
we have to have assistants to help us. We have to partner with HISs so that we can really fill the demand for our profession.
Yes.
Mhm.
So you
Love that.
started from a place of, wow, just what are you going to do now, right? But what do you think was the hardest lesson that you learned in your early years after going through that and then starting your own practice that you still kind of carry with you today?
You got to be your own best advocate. I can't expect anybody to fight my battles for me. I got to fight them. And I was lucky enough to have a husband who was so supportive of me and my some of my crazy ideas. Um, but he would just say to me, "Well, Jill, you usually do your research. If you think that's a great idea, then let's do it." Or he would say to me, maybe you ought to think about that twice. And I always looked at ideas and things from a financial perspective. You know, I my husband worked in the business. But it was my job to grow the business. I'm the one that loved business. I'm the one that knew the business. And so David was a help in so many ways, but it was my job to grow the business. And so, many times as an owner of a practice, there'll be people that come in, usually men, and will say, I want to talk to the owner of this place. Probably not as much now as when we were young, Nicole, but I mean Noel. But and I would say, you're looking at her. And I'll tell you what, I faced some battles with ENTs. Uh, one ENT that I was contracting with had my own audiologist. I heard him, I went up against him and said, that's not right. I can't do that. And he didn't like it. And he took every employee into his office. He had a very loud voice, including my employees, and said, you don't have to listen to her. She's just some girl who's an audiologist. And
Crazy.
and the first thing I did, and I don't do this very often, was I was devastated and I cried, and then I got the hell out.
Mm.
He was who he was, and a great point of satisfaction is when he needed hearing aids, he came into the office, and he was fine. I didn't work with him myself, but he was fine to work with. He was very respectful, and he said to me, "You've created quite a business here, Jill." And so I guess they think we can't do it without them, but I knew that we could. So you got to stick up for what you believe in. You can't expect anybody else to do it for you. And if it gets too complicated of a relationship, then you got to get out.
Mhm.
I think this leads nicely into my next question and thought is if you were to think back to your early days of practice ownership, what do you wish you had known starting out?
Starting out, I wished I would have learned that business is business. And no matter what business you're in, you got to look at those numbers. You cannot let your numbers, that's the thing I'm most passionate about. Look at your numbers, look at your numbers. Because most audiologists, and we know that what, 88% of our field is female, they don't run the
Mhm.
business like a business.
Mhm.
And when I go into practices, it's, oh,
Guilty, guilty,
I
guilty.
know, Noelle, I know, but here's the thing about it is when I go into practices, and I've been in them all across the country, all across the world, it's always the same things. They don't charge enough. They
Mhm.
don't know their worth, and they don't charge what they're worth. For number one, we do not sell hearing aids. We provide hearing care to
Yes.
Mhm.
people, and that includes our professional expertise. So, we've shot ourselves in the foot many times, and we've got in this TPA situation because we said hearing aids cost. No, it's not the hearing aids that cost, it's our professional expertise. And when I hear that audiologists are just pressing best fit, it pisses me off something terrible. You want to be better than some of the chains or Costco's, then do a better job,
Yeah,
Mhm.
agree with
Mhm.
that.
and so that was always my passion, to do a better job. And we have so many great tools today. When I started, this is going to be shocking. We had big behind the ear aids. And then they came out with the
Yep.
big in the ear aids. The
Yep.
only thing you could do is turn it louder, turn it softer,
Or put the little
or
screwdriver, right?
if you had a screwdriver, you
Yep.
could adjust a trim pot that, excuse me, if you did it on real ear, it didn't do much.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
now,
And you couldn't
we,
do anything with it really, because
yeah, and we had people now today still pressing best fit.
right.
Mhm.
Are we better
Mhm.
than that or not?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say to people, learn how to use your tools, and business is business, and watch those numbers, have goals, and reach for the top.
Yes. Well, I
Well,
think that kind of answered the next question I was going to
mhm.
ask. That what are the top two or three things that you would
Mhm.
tell somebody? And I think you just did that. So
Mhm.
Because
let's talk
I'll tell you
about,
something,
yeah,
as audiologists, even in a typical practice of 400,000, 420,000, you can live a hell of a life on that if you do it right. If your
Mhm.
pricing's right, if
right.
you're selling, even if you do TPAs, if you're handling it right, not letting them control your life, and if you are, advertising to patients when new technology comes out, and considering anybody that has AIDS over 3 or 4 years a candidate. That was the soul of the business once it had been going a long time, was telling people, hey, there's something new. People want to hear better. I can tell you this. Now, my husband's had a hearing loss for about 35 years. It happened suddenly when I was much younger. And come to find out, it was heredity and blah, blah, blah. Nobody could figure it out. But, when we go in a noisy restaurant, like we were just up north in Minnesota, and I saw his hearing aids wouldn't connect to his phone. And he was doing everything right. It was just some, glitch. And I saw him completely fade away from the conversation because he couldn't hear.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's like it's so important as we get older
Mhm.
Yeah.
because of the cognitive decline that can happen, and we have to be encouraging our patients to, get the best and upgrade when they need it, because there are really great things out there today.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. But let's just talk about, I know I've seen your office. I know everything that you've said about how the office treats the patients. So because you're known for creating world-class patient experiences, what does that really mean, like on a day-to-day operations in your office in St. Joe, or in the office in St.
So
Joe?
I remembered, when I started, I was the only audiologist in the county. Now there are like 7 dispensers and audiologists within 7 miles. Okay, and because we're the biggest, we have a big target on our back. But I I remember how we would like fit people with hearing aids. And then we would give them, we'd go outside maybe, or run water or get in the car, whatever. And then we'd give people basically a yellow notepad and say, now write down everything you hate about it. And I knew we were better than that. And so I wanted to devise something where I could know to the best of my ability that people were fit and fit the best that they could be fit. And so I would use the surround environments to really bring them into environments and see how well they were hearing and then adjust them. I love to do aided speech testing in noise, not just the quick sin or the hint or any of that stuff,
Mhm.
but really do it and see how well they can hear and then try to train them on, how you want to sit and those kind of things. So to me, it was having environments where we could really optimize the technology. And
Right.
of
I love
course,
that.
I'm very picky and I want to make sure that people are being greeted right away, that they don't have to wait too long, that they're not on hold too long, that we ask them what brought them there today, that we have refreshments, and that we make it an environment that's not threatening to patients because nobody wants a hearing test, let's face it.
Right.
Mhm, mhm. I love that. And I love your office. I also was there way back in 2018. And I think that kind of gave me some ideas when I opened my own office to make it an inviting. I don't have a hair salon in the back, but I try to make it inviting with the coffee and the, snacks and drinks that are very inviting and
And just
friendly is
getting
what
the
we like to say.
employees that are friendly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, how you doing today? We're so glad to see you.
Mhm.
Is this your spouse? And then hopefully they know the name and can write it down for us because I can't remember anymore.
Um, Joe, where would you say, as you were looking at numbers in the business when you were still practicing and as you're analyzing businesses today, where do you find most audiologists are leaving money on the table?
Help rate.
Help
Help
right.
right.
Help right.
Absolutely. And it really irritates me that it's not something that universities focus on.
Mm-hmm.
We know that, the average help rate, like if 100 people come in and need hearing aids, that only about 45 would ever walk out of our offices with hearing aids.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then they return or exchange 22%. That is, to me, it's if somebody came to me and I'm a good professional, why wouldn't they walk out with the help they needed? And
Mm-hmm.
so it was never, you have to learn how to overcome those four most common things. It's too expensive. And one thing I'm really big on is when I would put someone in a booth, I would say, now this is what we're going to do today. And we're going to put you in the booth and I'm going to let you listen to tones. And then I'm going to have you repeat some words or sentences at a loudness level that I know you should be able to hear them. Now, that may be louder than normal, but I want to see your potential. I want to know how you could be hearing if you had help.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll take them out of the room because we have like, surround sound and we have a speaker, that's like right in front of the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, okay, now I'm going to turn it down to a normal listening level and see how well you actually do in daily life. And that's the thing that overcomes, I don't think it's bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because if
Mm-hmm.
you can be right there with the person and say, no, that wasn't tall, that was wall. It
Mm-hmm.
helps them to understand what they're missing. And then we do the demos and put the demos on them.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I started doing that. So, especially if somebody's there and I'm not really sure how they would do at like maybe somebody with more mild
Right,
hearing.
right.
And I'll
Mm-hmm.
just do speech at 45. I think you do it at 40 or
We do
45.
it at 40. But here's the thing, Noel, that's also interesting is, as you get older, you don't think quite as fast.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people have thresholds that we would consider borderline normal, but they're
Mm-hmm.
still struggling in
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'll tell them sometimes is, well, you got the words correct, but did you notice how much struggling you had to do? How it
Yeah.
took you extra time, how you had to think about it. And if somebody was in a rapid conversation, you probably would have missed a lot of those words. So even if they do well on it, and I see that lag time, that's a really good
Mm-hmm.
way of talking to them about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So let's talk about how you stay inspired and avoid burnout after decades of being in this profession.
Oh, one of the ways I stay inspired is I love new ideas. And I'm always going into places and saying, oh, how could we do that? Oh, how could we do that? It absolutely amazes me what Starbucks has done. And I always think, why don't we have a line around the office for things like that? But I get really excited about what I do. I mean, I believe in better hearing. I believe in helping people. And I know how much somebody gets left out because of, my husband. And I love telling people, oh my gosh, there's help out there for you. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about this. I want you to hear what you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have said to me, boy, you're really good at sales. Yeah, I probably am after all these years, but you know why? Because it matters. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
help you. You came here, you chose me. You chose this practice.
Yeah.
I don't want you to walk out and go somewhere else. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to stay right here where I
Mm-hmm.
know you're going to get the best care possible. So I love the new ideas. Oh my gosh, the new software. Isn't it cool what it can do? Oh my God, I love it. I really do. I love it because I remember when I had an extern who's still with the business, but somebody had been back 3 times for the same damn thing, and that makes me crazy. We're better than that. And it would be like, try this, try that. I hated it. So put him in a surround sound with noise and then adjusted the technology, had him listen to his spouse, and it was just so fun. And when they left, you could tell they were understanding better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, now this is the way I think it should be. I've done everything, but if you have trouble, you let me know. And the extern said, wow, I've never seen that done before. I said, isn't that sad? We
Mm-hmm.
have all the tools.
Yeah.
Now you just have to use them.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that because I think sometimes we get so ingrained of, okay, we do 92557 and here we go, first fit our hearing aids and out the door. And I think it takes a couple years out of school or just to be taught the creativity that you can incorporate into a hearing test, into
Right.
your fitting appointment to pull out what is important to the patient to make them feel part of the experience. But yeah, I think even in the past 2.5 years of me owning my practice, I've learned to get creative with what I have to do to make it an experience. So yeah,
And
that's
that's
awesome.
fun.
It is
That's
fun.
fun.
And I love to see like what works with the patient, like how their expression is different. Like we said, presenting speech in quiet rather than saying, okay, you got 100% at 50 and you got 100% at 70. I let the patient tell me how was that for them because more times than not, they recognize they struggled and they want hearing aids because of that experience. So before me
Yeah, I
answering
don't
it for them,
I don't think people get in a car,
yeah,
fight traffic, drive to where they have to go, bring a significant other with them to
yeah,
sit in a soundproof booth and repeat, and punch a button for stuff. I don't think
right.
people look forward to that. It's
No,
a last resort,
yeah,
right? So if you
yes.
we want you and we want to make sure we do the best job possible for you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, let's talk about mentorship. You've mentored so many audiologists. What do you see as the biggest difference between those who succeed and those who
With
struggle?
that. Hmm.
Well, the biggest thing is when you're consulting with people, you know, they're paying you to do it, but they
Mm-hmm.
really don't like change and they don't want to make change. And change doesn't happen unless you change things. And so, the people that when you have a consultant, you say, you got to track your help rate, you got to hold your employees responsible, you got to raise your prices, and you got to stay in touch and market. They're like, oh, I didn't really want to do all that. Well, then don't do it. I don't care. You just wasted money. But the thing that I know now at my age that I didn't always appreciate is that unless you have somebody else in the family who makes a lot of money, and I know a lot of it's not all about money, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people in the profession, women that employ their spouses.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to retire and have the life you become accustomed to, that's a big price tag today.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
start watching your money from the beginning, start watching your cost. Get rid, when you've been in business, now, Lindsay, this will apply to you. When you've been
Mm-hmm.
in business a couple years, get rid of any middlemen
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
middle people. So
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. I was just at a practice and um, what the person was paying for hearing aids was, you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And I'm like, okay, what kind of help are you getting from this organization? Well, to me, I always consider a network. I did it. I lived
Mm-hmm.
it. I know how much money I spent on it. And, while it was really good because they taught me business in the first couple of years, business is business.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe marketing changed, maybe products changed, but it doesn't change. You got to have a cost of goods that's less than 30%. And you
Mm-hmm.
got to start putting money away when you're young because when you can't guarantee your practice is worth anything.
Mm-mm. No.
You know,
Yes.
the smartest thing that I did was I took myself out of the revenue generating a year and a half before I sold.
Mm,
So they knew this business could generate millions
mm,
of dollars without me.
mhm,
And that was smart, but you got to watch your cost and you
mhm,
got to put money aside and
mhm,
you got to build revenue.
mhm. Love that.
Yes, for sure. Lindsay, do you want to say anything more about leadership and mentorship? Or I think we covered some of that at the beginning as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I think
A
we covered
really
most of that.
wow and
Mm-hmm.
Jill, let's talk a little bit about the future of the profession. Because, you and I have been in this side of it for so long that I've had so many times where I think that's it, that's the end. We're going to all go out of business. This is going to destroy us, blah, blah, blah. And then it's a no, nothing happens, right? We even come back even stronger, like even with all the third parties and the threat of online. We still are all busy in our offices, and there's a lot of people that I know that are adding a second or third office and growing even faster than they ever did before. But what do you think about the profession right now? As if you were going to start a practice or give advice based on the OTCs and the managed care and corporate consolidations, what do you think about all of that? Where do you think that's going?
Well, like you said, Noel, we've all been through OTCs. How many times before? It never damaged us then. It's not going to damage us now. The Costco's, I went through all of that with my husband and I wasn't afraid anymore. I just had a young woman who's been through so much in her life. And, really, really, really sick kids and things, excuse me. And she said a nice thing. She said, if you get a blinding snowstorm, you can worry about all that snow and what's going to happen, but you still have a blinding snowstorm. So it's not going to change anything. So I would say worry less and act more.
Mm,
Yeah, I
You know,
like
don't don't worry about some kind of, threats. Be smart, run a good business, make sure you're profitable, make sure you're holding your employees accountable, make sure you market yourselves and and just adhere to best practices and do a good job. There's
mhm,
always going to be room for a good business and good professionals. So
mhm,
I wouldn't even worry about it.
Yep.
You got to do your homework if you're starting a business.
Yeah, you
Know
got to
where
be
you should
wise.
put it, know what it costs, know what it takes to make money. But I wouldn't worry about the threats in your competition.
mhm. Keep your
Good
nose
point.
down and stay the course. I like that. Yeah, stay the
Absolutely.
course. Love that. Okay, Noelle, you ready to do the rapid fire questions? You want me to ask them?
Sure, you can ask them
How
this time.
fast are they?
So,
Not too
you
fast.
get a
Rapid to you, Lindsay, and rapid to me are probably two different things.
We're your rapid. You're the leader of this here. Okay, Jill. Number one, what word would describe you and why?
Ambitious.
Hmm,
I like that. Why would
right,
you say that? I feel like I don't need to ask, but what
right.
about you is ambitious?
Have you met
Oh,
Jill?
I see opportunities in everything.
Uh-huh.
And I just, I never give up and
Mhm.
I'm ambitious and I'm going to get what I want out of life because I'm going to earn it. And so I'm very unrelenting and I'm very ambitious.
Like that other word for you
Love
too,
that.
right?
Yeah, unrelenting. I like that. What would you do if money wasn't a concern? What would you do?
Oh, I'd go be a Broadway star.
Well, there
That's
you go. Yeah.
very talented too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where do you see our profession in 10 years?
Right where it is today. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
Unfortunately.
there may be a few more, certainly women are becoming wiser, um, but it hasn't changed that much in 40 years. So I guess I would say it's going to be about where it is today. But people may be making more money then.
Yeah. I
What do
feel
you
like it
think
is
we could
true.
do to make our profession better for all?
Make sure you adhere to best practices. Makes me crazy when audiologists press best fit.
Yeah. When you hear
Mhm.
the stories about, yeah, and it also gives us a bad name because then people don't trust who they're going to as much,
But,
right?
but Noelle, a lot of people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
And if we
Mhm.
don't show them the difference, if we don't show them we're better than Costco, how are we better than Costco?
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And not
Yeah.
that there's anything wrong. There's a lot of good audiologists that work at Costco.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. But what makes us different is, really sharing that with people.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us that we may not know about you that you want to end with?
Audiology has afforded me a fabulous life. I
Mm,
mean, Noelle, I think you would agree that the things that I've been invited to and the things that I've been able to do and the places around the world that I've been able to go. And I was a little known kid from a very small town in Stevensville, Michigan. And I believe that anything is possible. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And as I've had, a few moments of doubt in the last couple years, but I'm back to my good old positive beliefs. And I know that anything's possible because I have lived it, I have seen
yeah,
it, I have breathed it. And if I can do it, everybody else can too.
yeah. And you set such a great
Love that.
example for so many females in the industry. So thank you for all
You're
you do.
welcome. You're welcome. And I know for everybody, I know these younger kids today, they're not all about money. So make it so it's
Mhm.
a life that you want and that you love. That's what counts. Because, just like we were talking about a friend whose spouse died young, you don't know how much time you have left. And I don't want any regrets when I go to that place in heaven. I don't want any regrets. I want to say, I lived my best life. I tried to contribute. I tried to be a person that God would have that God would appreciate, not appreciate. How do I want to say it? But you know what I mean. I want to be someone who's lived a good life and helped others live a good life.
That's
You
wonderful.
sure have, Jill. So many
Yeah.
of us look up to you.
Thank you
Yes.
very
Thank you
much.
so much for joining us, Dr.
You're
Jill.
welcome.
And
And
this is
good
the
luck to you
Sound
guys and the
Sisters.
Sound
Yeah.
Sisters.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. And that's
Yeah.
a wrap. That's the Hearing
Thanks. And
Diaries. So
so we'll see
thank
you
you,
next time
everybody.
on the Sound.